Bring a Trailer podcast. We're back, getting the band back together. Howard, Zac, and Alex all together here in San Francisco.
Nice. Good to have you back, Howard.
Good to be not on Zoom, I think.
For 1 week? How long are you on the West Coast for?
From fully remote to fully in person. This is, variety is the name of the game in so many ways. I'm here for a week.
Nice. You just showed up to clean out your place, and then you're officially making the move?
No. With winter coming soon, I think I'll decamp back home to SF.
Okay, yeah. You're gonna you summer in New York and winter in San Francisco. Is that how? When you start using the seasons as a verb?
I'm a snowbird in California.
Is there a new battery in the Nissan Versa after this week? Or
I actually drove it yesterday. I did my standard kind of monthly battery maintenance upkeep program of driving for a day.
How was that?
Nice.
Delightful experience?
It was delightful. Yeah, I think I'm still on the tank of gas that it had 9 months ago.
You feel a little rusty getting back behind the wheel after a couple months, zero driving?
Oh, I thought you meant of the Versa that's starting to have some really awful wear and tear. The steering wheel, the
Quite
dash.
literally rusty, yes. No, I mean you as a person.
No, I thought I might, but hopped in, a couple cars, was cruising around, going to dinner, seeing the family, and the muscle memory comes back pretty quick.
Well, that's good. Are you going to be feeling that way for your Spec Miata weekend in a couple days here?
Yeah. One of the reasons I came back running the Spec Miata event at Sonoma Sears Point this weekend, running a 90.16 NA.
And when were you last on track there? 96, you get a 1.8 in that, huh?
No, 1990 1.6 liter.
Oh, I'm sorry, 90.16.
But people want the 96s because you get the 1.8, but in the early body style.
Yes. So when were you last out in the Spec Miata?
Oh boy, we're talking dorky Spec Miata stuff where listeners are literally dropping off. We can hear them closing the window.
This is sending echoes across the Spec Miata.
People love Miatas. I just drove over here at my dad's 1990 Miata, 89 build date Miata. It's great. Those cars are fantastic. I bet they make wonderful race cars. I've never driven one on track before.
Last time I did one was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Renting a car from, again, Larry Oka. Shout out to Larry. People on the California know him from Miatas and Datsun 510s. Cool old timer. So he's lending me a car. By lending, I mean he's letting me pay him to rent
Totally,
to
that's
drive
right.
it.
Does he have one of those transporters bring out a couple arrive and drive Miatas for a couple
I don't know. We'll
people?
see. I assume he's going to be supporting more cars than just me. But he's got a shop up at the track, and he tells me my car has 120 horse, 108 pound-feet of torque. So that's not bad.
He's dynoing him, huh? Putting him on the dyno?
It's kind of middle of the road. So it's low enough that if I finish poorly, I at least have the standard Spec Miata racer excuse of my motor isn't that great. So I was happy to see that.
You're just in denial about all the food and drink weight of that New York lifestyle that's really slowing you down in Spec Miata.
It's the whole thing. Like all the mid-packers are all the ones complaining about cheating who are actually the ones cheating.
Of course. Although back in my Pro 7 days, it was amazingly always the guy who had the shop that built the motors who was out in front. That was always an interesting coincidence. Is this NASA, SCCA? Who are you running with?
This is NASA.
Okay.
Which apparently is now doing great, respecting me out at 40, 50 car field. So,
I was going to ask you, what's the field going to be like?
Don't know. I got to check the entry list.
3 wide, 4 wide, maybe even?
Yeah.
I don't know, 4 wide on Sonoma. Not a lot of points on the track where you can do that, right?
Although your dad just drove his Miata here and told me he just got a hardtop for it and that it was $3,000. So I guess all those parts are going up.
I tried to find him a hardtop for that thing for years, and I couldn't find. I mean, there's even when one shows up on Craigslist, if it's not shady as hell and stolen, it's gone in like an hour. So hard to find those things. He did for an 82-year-old guy. He ripped his soft top out and he's got it bolted to the car, so he's got it full Spec Miata style. But yeah, it took forever to find one of those. I assume it's because the Spec Miata guys suck them up. That happened with all those FB RX-7s when I was racing that car, right? For a long time, you go to a junkyard, get a motor for $50, a fender for $10, and then pretty soon, every FB RX-7 in a junkyard had been picked clean by the spec racers, and I assume that's happening with Miatas.
I think so. I was offered for an additional fee to buy a new set of tires for the weekend, or I was assured that the used tires that Larry has are adequate. So obviously, I didn't.
Which order did that come in?
I didn't pony up for the new tires.
I see.
Toyo Proxies?
More reasons to look for excuses after the weekend.
Of course. Yeah.
It's nice to stack the deck.
What are the fast guys running around Sonoma in a Spec Miata?
Lap times?
Yes.
Fast guys are running 154, 155.
Oof, that is pretty quick.
Maybe a 53.9.
Wow.
I mean, Sonoma's not a horsepower track. That's a car where you can embarrass a lot of guys in late model supercars in a spec Miata.
That's right. Technical, a lot of turns, not a whole lot of straightaway.
Carrying speed, best way to learn how to drive fast, in my opinion.
So yeah, guys, it's good to be all together. We've got a ton of great stuff on the site as usual. A lot of really neat, specifically American stuff. So I wanted to chat about some of that, some of our favorite kind of dream muscle car garages. We have two really neat Camaros, a 67 and a 69 from Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, big car guy, collector. I actually went down to see him when we were in Monterey. He's got his shop in Seaside, and spent an hour with him walking through his shop, seeing all those cars. He's got a really impressive collection, and he knows a lot about cars. I was both impressed with how kind he was, but also just his sheer breadth of knowledge, and was impressive. So
nice. What were the two of you talking about?
Oh, he was just kind of schooling me on Camaros and Chevelles and Vets, and kind of walking through the shop and saying, "Oh, here's this car, I bought it in this year, and here's why it's special," and boom, 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 boom. And so we have 67 Z28 of his, I think a pale yellow car. These should be live by the time this pod
They're
goes
live
up.
right now, or at least the 69 is.
And a 69 silver.
Went live this morning.
Yep, silver 69 RS with what? Cross ram induction?
I think it's a Z28, as I recall, but it has a motor that I didn't really know about. I knew about the amazing cross ram manifolds on Mopars, on the 440 wedges, and on those other big non-Hemi Mopars, where there's those amazing runners that go over the valve covers, and there's carburetors way out on the side of the engine bay. But people are probably going to freak out when I say this. I didn't know that there was a cross ram manifold for Chevy small blocks. So this car's got a 302 with a cross ram that's maybe not quite as dramatic as a Mopar cross ram, but it's got two smaller, I think about 500 CFM carbs rather than an 850 single four barrel. And they sit staggered on the manifold, so the air cleaner is at a 45-degree angle over the valley. It's a pretty unique look, and it's really cool. We've had two 69 Z28s with this manifold on it. Looks awesome.
I was going to say, yeah, it is very distinctive. That's the immediate thing you notice is the angle of the air cleaner and how it's mounted.
And from what I understand, so this is ties into their Trans Am program, right? Where you've got a smaller displacement motor with peaky power. And from what I read, so I think these were rated at 290 horse, 290 pound-feet, and that's probably conservative. People have rebuilt these, and they say it's more like 350 or even 370 horse. And what's amazing about them is they're really peaky. Zach, I know you like a peaky engine, so it's like peak torque out of a 302 at 5,000 or 5,500 RPM.
Oh, nice. It revs like a K code.
Totally. I think they're almost 7,000 RPM, 6,500 RPM, something like that, which is really cool to think about having that in a Camaro. I love the look of the first generation Camaro. So I was just excited about that. This is a really cool motor to have in one of those. I don't know how streetable it would be, but awesome.
Love the passion, and I have to throw it to the room. Are you guys covered headlights 69, or do you like uncovered headlights earlier 67?
67, 68 for me. I know 69s are popular, but I like the look of the first 2 years better.
I'm also earlier with exposed headlights, and I'm actually on Team Firebird. I think the early 67, 68 with the quad lights are some of the prettiest muscle cars.
Big block or small block for you?
I'm still little. Small block's all I need, man. Yeah. Maybe once I can grow real facial hair, I'll get a big block.
I agree, 67, 68. For me, 69 Z01 Camaro, which is with top of the food chain.
Yeah.
I think that it was 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. I think it was the fastest American car, maybe full stop production car, kind of L88 performance, maybe even better.
Yeah.
So I'd probably go there when I'm thinking of dream Camaro garage, but no, these two are pretty neat.
Well, nice segue. What's in your just in general dream garage of that era from American makes.
Oh, I have a dream garage from Mile to Wild. Alex, did you have? I don't want to move on before you got it all out.
No, it's fine.
It's
It's fine. I was gonna say something controversial, so I'll shut up.
Oh no, please, controversy encouraged.
Okay, my favorite early Camaro we ever listed. Like, I could actually go light resto mod on one of those cars. We had, I don't know if you guys will remember, this was 3 or 4 years ago. We had can't remember if it was a 67 or 68. It was definitely first 2 years. Camaro with an so it was resto modded in like maybe the 90s, so kind of before that took off. And it had an LT1 and a 6-speed out of a C4 Corvette. But it looked pretty stock other than that. Bigger, it had 4-wheel disc brakes, probably vented, and maybe even had Corvette independent rear suspension, but it looked completely stock on the outside. It was black. Sold for like 50 grand before all these, kind of things started going wild. But, stock looking, but with upgraded brakes and not like pro touring level resto mod, but more modern engine, a 6-speed transmission, upgraded brakes. You could run that on the rallies that we go on, and looks so fantastic. I mean, that would be kind of my dream spec for one of those cars, I think.
Yeah, I always give mad respect to the guys running muscle cars and events. They're so far and few between, and a sea of 2002s and British sports cars and a few GTVs. So respect for that.
My dream car garage. We getting into that? Maybe not full stop garage, but yeah, off the top of the head. I mean, I've talked about how I like Superbirds. Although I think I'd go Dodge Charger Daytona.
Ooh.
Just to differentiate yourself, right?
Yeah.
Those are I feel out in the wild less. Yeah. Not that either are particularly common.
Oh, but the Superbird is like the epitome of the height of the muscle car era, in the way that the Daytona is almost a little more subtle than a Superbird.
That's kind of why I like it.
Oh man, but subtle, it almost is like an oxymoron with those cars.
That's
but
right.
With the big bird on the side, the name Superbird, it's just that car, that look for me is the height of ridiculous American muscle cars. So I think it's a shame to go for a Daytona over Superbird. But
I would happily take a Superbird. We've got a really nice one ending this week, early next week. Orange,
back,
awesome.
It's your garage, Howard. I don't mean to.
Thank you.
Zach, that's right. Come on, man. Let him have his garage.
My mind goes to Plymouth. Poor Plymouth. R.I.P. We'll pour some out. 69 to 70 Hemi Cudas.
Yeah.
Not to be Cuda versus Barracuda. Not the same thing. Although Hemi Cuda is a little more expensive. We had, I think last week, a 70 Barracuda 440. That just really spoke to me. I just thought it was really well done. I think it sold for like 60-ish grand. A lot of curb appeal. I
go 71 on those. I like the actual Barracuda nose, but the 70s are nice for their simplicity in comparison.
I like the early Barracudas, like a 66 with the
huge
fast
glass.
back. Yeah, I kind of like those a lot.
I don't disagree with that.
They're smaller. I like all, I don't know if it counts as muscle car. Maybe they're pony cars, but I like all the stuff that's a little bit.
How many poor kids have been baked in the back seat of a mid '60s Barracuda with all that glass?
Totally.
That's all I can think of.
Totally.
What's the one that's $2-4 million? That's a 71 Hemi Cuda convertible. That's like
71 is most desirable year. Yeah. But 70 is not far behind it.
Man, what else? We'll stick Plymouth, Roadrunner, Hemi.
Yes.
I don't have to have the Hemi, but I mean, if we're talking, Dream Garage, that's up there for me.
I mean, the Hemi's so iconic, but I'm like, I like the wedge motors. I think they're cool. Again, cross ram. Like if I was going to go Mopar, I would actually I'd love to put a cross ram manifold on even a small. I think you can put them on a 383 also. I think that would be fantastic.
We sold a pretty nice Boss 429 for 195.
Speaking of
grand
Hemis,
last week.
Speaking of Hemis, right?
That's up there for me.
Yeah, that motor is maybe even cooler looking than a Mopar Hemi. It's so freaking big and beefy. Those valve covers are crazy. They look so awesome.
Can we talk about what's happening with 69 to 70 Mustang Mach 1s? Those seem to be surging big time. Would be a good time to mention we have this new partnership with the Good Guys. So obviously that whole community is big in all this stuff we're talking about. So that's a new initiative we have with them, and hopefully that brings more awareness from folks that aren't already aware of BAT, and hopefully people that want to buy and sell all this stuff we're talking about right now, which I think hopefully will be the case. Kind of a more affordable dream car garage. I'm interested in Dodge Dart GTS 440,
Ooh,
Dart Swinger.
Yeah.
That's of interest to me. I've always been a big Oldsmobile Tornado fan. I think I got that from my dad. We had a Tornado back in the day.
We don't have any ACD cars live. I didn't know if I was going to be able to wrap in Auburn Court Duesenberg, but Tornado is sometimes called, the tribute to the Cord a little bit, right? It's got those wheels that are a paid tribute to the 810, 812 Cord, and is the next V8 front-wheel drive car after the Cords.
You never see like a Resto Mod Tornado. I think someone ought to do that.
I wonder if somebody must have.
Way before Jay Leno's Garage, he had a show on, I think it was NBC or something, and
The Tonight Show? I've heard of that.
Yeah, I don't know.
You mean a car show of some kind?
Oh, man, I'm beat red right now on that remark. Where he would meet with owners. It was kind of like Overhauling with Jay Leno. And he did a front-wheel drive Tornado, the first front-wheel drive. Mm-hmm. First front-wheel drive muscle car, right?
I mean, if you want to call it kind of a cruiser.
Yeah, converted to rear drive?
Converted to rear drive, twin turbo LS.
Okay, that's interesting. There you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Which is what people do with Cords back
But I just read the first half of that episode singing praises about how innovative it was, the conversion to front-wheel drive, huge deal, and then they tore it all out, made it a rear-wheel drive, twin-turbo LS.
See, I like that it's front-wheel drive. I think that's part of the charm. I wouldn't want to switch that part.
Yeah, I do too.
There is a guy, Brizio, who does the hot rods down here in South San Francisco, such a famous Roy Brizio? Roy. He did a Resto Mod Cord 810 or 812, and he put an LS1 and a Porsche 6-speed automatic transaxle out of a Cayenne and kept it front-wheel drive. Which, see, I love that idea of doing that. Like, where you keep, you kind of keep the spirit of the car, but update it.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Interesting, right?
And then, I really like just a nicely done 69 or 70 Nova SS.
Oh, totally.
I'd give me that over a Chevelle any day.
Totally.
What's the good L34, L78, but
big block, small block.
I see those come up on the site, and every time I'm like, I like them better and better with every passing year.
Well, you brought up Mach 1s, which is interesting because you have the high end of the big block cars selling well into the six figures, but you can also get a 69, 70, 351 Mach 1 for pretty reasonable dollar that has, 90, 95% of the look and
totally,
honestly, so much usable power anyway for a fraction of the cost. We sold that green one, which was kind of a driver, great color, pretty nice inside. A new owner should probably get a new steering wheel in there, but $31,000 just the other month. I mean, that's a pretty great piece of Americana to cruise around in at that price point.
Totally agree. But we sold for, other end of the spectrum, 428 Cobra Jet that sold for 140, 150 grand. I mean, I feel that is like a headline result for those people almost rediscovering them. And I bet you it's maybe newer people into the market who maybe didn't know or have shifted their focus to that sort of stuff. I mean, certainly 68 to 70 Mustangs are nothing new, right?
Right. I've been biting my tongue not talking about Mustangs this whole time because I still like
it's too much.
First year fastback, right? Like, it's such a cliche, but that's my favorite of the era, right? The kind of sportiest and the kind of lightest and prettiest of that era.
But Mach 1 Cobra Jet for similar money to a 67 GT500. I mean, I think most of us would rather have the latter.
I mean, I guess this is yesteryear's pricing at this point, but I would take a 66 GT350 in the mid to high 100s, I think, but just my personal preference.
And like the Hertz cars are going up, like all that stuff is
starting with the 2 now.
That's my favorite.
But it really is, right? I feel like 2-3 years ago, like we were looking at Hertz cars for 110, 120,
non-matching, spotty history, get it in the low 100s, drive it around. Man, that's totally my spec. But so Howard, you hit on an interesting point of younger buyers fueling a little bit of the prices we're seeing, which I totally agree with. I think in part it's once you've had so many modern sports car experiences, you finally start to branch out a little bit and be like, okay, what haven't I experienced? And so many of these cars with such a variety of drivetrains and aesthetics, it's like it offers something that no modern car can. And they all do it like the Novas you're talking about offer such a uniquely different American muscle car experience from the Mustangs we're talking about.
I think that's right. I think it's younger buyers. I also think it's newer buyers that aren't necessarily young in age. I think it's people all over the age spectrum. I mean, look at Blazers and Scouts and FJs and Broncos with modern drivetrains. I feel that's a whole sub-market of people that are interested in that stuff that maybe are discovering other areas of the car world, but that really speaks to them, or
maybe buying their first collector car.
Yeah.
That's what you mean. Yeah, that's interesting to think about that. It's a hell of a way to jump in. Yeah, I think that's probably. I mean, it's what I was going to say. You were talking about like low dollar cars, and to me, as a person who's liked cars like this for a long time, I find a lot of charm in the kind of cheap cooking spec versions of cars, right? Like a Camaro with a 302, but with the 2-barrel, like the lowest spec 302 you could get, or God forbid, even a 6-cylinder Mustang, right? But one that's really well preserved. Maybe it's been in the family forever, a California black plate car, something like that, in a good color, where you get to kind of experience what it would be like to drive around a base spec 67 Camaro in 1967. But a person like who you're talking about, somebody who's jumping in, like that's not interesting to them, right? They want the cool one, the thing that's kind of unique, the thing that sets you apart.
I agree
with
with that.
Jumping into the collector car scene for the first time.
Yeah, you and I'd be happy with like a nice like 63 Falcon with some nice bits on it, right?
I was thinking exactly of a Falcon. I was at dinner last night with a buddy, and he was telling me about this Falcon that he inherited. It was a 6-cylinder Falcon coupe, had a 3-speed column shift and a 6-cylinder, and it had like a 250 rear end ratio, like final drive. So I mean, it was like not even taking advantage of the little amount of power it had, but it was really nice. It had been a grandmother's car, and he drove it for years. And he's like, he now has like a 400 horse 70 Chevelle and other muscle cars. He's a drag racer, but he was saying, that car, meant a lot to him, and he really enjoyed driving that car. It's a car that he reminisces about, which is really, I love that kind of stuff. And that stuff is definitely affordable, right? Finding the base spec car, but a well-preserved version of it.
So big market call, if you're listening, pile into Dodge Dart GTS 440s. I think, you want to buy some Ethereum or some Bitcoin or some Dodge Darts.
Nice. I thought you were going to segue into buying a 6-cylinder Falcon 3 speeds.
No. That's a way to lose money, even though they're cheap to begin with. Zach, speaking of collectors jumping into the market, one of the things I've noticed that's kind of blown my mind, you had a 993 Carrera S at one point some years ago. The C4S and C2S 993 prices have been crazy recently, like really surprising me. Like, what have you noticed that?
C4S is the new turbo. What's happening?
Yeah, what's happening?
Yeah, as a guy that sold one 2 years ago, I paid nothing but close attention. And now that they're selling double than what I sold mine for.
That's right. Yours was sweet. You messed that up, man.
Yeah, it was a good car. It was time to go. Yeah, I think it really comes down to the point of the thing that matters most in honestly all automobiles. You're talking about Tesla Model Ys on the other end of the spectrum of this today. What does it look like? That's what really matters as its core, right?
Yeah.
And
no one likes to admit that, though.
Yeah, for me, those cars from like an engineering and aesthetic perspective, they're like as iconic and robust as what you're seeing with Rolex Submariners. It's sort of an accessory. It's something everybody immediately recognizes, sort of wants, and then once they see the price are a little bit shocked by it. But man, you close the door on that car, it's just as solid as it was on the 72, just as solid as any other 911, makes that beautiful noise. For the last time, your 996 and my 997 doesn't.
Yep.
Yeah, there's something about the build quality and experience that doesn't quite exist in the new cars. And then frankly, I'm of the opinion that that's just the best looking 911 head-on rear shot, particularly in the 2S, which gets the body colored split grille. But
and like Vipers, it seems so obvious now that they would shoot up. It's a cycle, right? It's there's peaks and valleys. Prices will fluctuate, but man, we have people coming to the door now with nice 96, 97 C4Ss with 40,000 miles, being like, yeah, I'll take a $175,000 reserve, and it's like, man,
so crazy.
I'm like double checking. Is like, is this a low mount turbo? Like, what is this?
Yeah,
but what is also crazy is if you go onto Porsche's configurator, an S Carrera S in a color you want with some options you want is kind of rivaling that.
Oh yeah,
And
okay, that's interesting.
Who's the cooler guy pulling up to the restaurant in Los Angeles?
100%.
Yeah.
And those guys are definitely thinking about that, right? I would imagine people who have that kind of money to like throw down on a 911, right? Like you are definitely cooler.
It's part of the experience, having something that makes you look like you have good taste and you just enjoy driving and is a quality object. Sounds cooler in the way that the others don't.
Is that a better car than a turbo?
The less complicated.
The thing I wanted most out of that car owning it was another 120 horsepower. So I would say no, personally, through my own driving experience. But honestly, I think without the spoiler, the rear end looks better. As Alex points out, it's simpler. The turbo's maintenance costs. Occasionally at night after a bottle of wine, I'll be going deep on the forums to see what it's really like to own one. And they're reliable, but a lot to maintain in the way that I think the NA cars aren't.
I've driven. I mean, the all-wheel drive system is also heavy, right? So I've driven C4S. Like it's an awesome car, but it's not like snap your neck back fast.
God, no.
But it's very civilized and yeah.
It's a very nice car to drive around in. That's what I would always say. Driving around. Lots of people come up to me. The most amount of people that ever like shouted out actively from a window of their car saying "cool car, man" was definitely in that car. But from a raw driving experience, the thing that would make that car best would definitely be another 100 or so horsepower. So the turbo would be sweet. Man, I'm into it.
I love those cars too. Slight tangent. My dad and I drove past a 992 today. What is the base cost of a 992? Are they $100,000?
Oh yeah, I think it's 110 for a Carrera
for the base car, for like the simplest 911 you can buy now.
Zero options. What's your guess, Howard?
What are we talking about? 2022
base 911, not an S, not anything. What's the?
They still make them 7-speed. Nothing that matters. You can get PDK.
I think that's a no-cost option. I think you get to choose, or no, maybe you have to pay extra.
Do they even make those with no options now?
They probably don't. But let's say you ordered it with no options.
Base 93.5.
It's funny now. You actually have to option getting no options.
Yeah, right.
You click the AC delete. It's really become a parody of itself. Okay, I'm looking at it right now.
My guess is 109.
You have a guess, Howard?
No, I was 93.5.
It's 98,750. I'm shocked.
Ooh, under 100. Well done, Howard. But I bet you can spend if you want like a Targa 4S, I bet it's $200,000 real quick with colors and options and stuff, right?
Would you rather have that, the stripper, which is still, stripper is still
car, yeah, right.
That for 98 or a 2021 C8 Vet for 84.5?
911. I don't even have to think about it. I think the C8's ugly.
I do too, actually.
I used to think the C7 was ugly, and now I'm like, oh, it looks a lot better than the C8.
The opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect the opinions.
The Chevrolet is going to come cracking down on our door. We praised Corvettes and Chevys earlier. I was talking cross Rams, man. Chevy does great stuff. The C8 has amazing performance, right? I just don't think it's really good looking.
I don't like the most about it. Have you guys heard one blow by on the street?
No. Something
about that noise of that engine coming out of like a sleek mid-engine looking sports car, it feels a little incongruent to me.
Well, it's low. Whatever the modern LS aluminum engine is. It's probably like 6,000 RPM, 6,500. Probably
exactly.
It's probably lower revving than that Cross Ram 302 was in 1969, or probably around the same.
Man, good call.
Okay, well maybe people agree with you. Another thing going nuts. C7s. Low mile C7 ZR1 3ZRs, those are like $100K plus now.
It's the last of the front engine Corvettes.
Which I love those. I think
they're cool looking. They're a little busy front and rear, although the C8's taken that to a totally new level. But in profile, the C7 with the quarter windows, I think it looks really good.
I think C7s look fantastic. The ZR1 was sort of like the jowls in front I could do without. And
it's a lot.
Yeah, 700 horsepower is a little more.
What's the one that has the big small block in it, the 427 or whatever?
The Grand Sport?
Grand Sport, yeah.
The Grand Sport's awesome. You get the wide body Z06, but with the NA V8. That's all you need. That's all the tire and power you would ever need.
I feel even like the 2018, 2019 convertible automatics are like going nuts too.
Oh, I'm sure they're. all
It
fast
seems
as
like
hell.
people don't. The 7-speeds aren't necessarily favored of the automatics. People are very happy to drive an automatic Z06 around. And
They're a torque converter automatic. Is that right? They're not a dual clutch.
they are. But have you driven like a newish car with a torque converter auto?
No, but everyone's the one that I hear of. Oh God, I'm going to date myself. How long it's been since I read car reviews for new cars. But when all those 8-speed ZF automatics came out that were in like every German performance car, that I remember everyone being like, "Oh, this is as good as a dual clutch."
I think they're fantastic. I've driven that 8-speed, and if you switch to the manual mode, it downshifts when you want. The upshifts are fine to even what you could call crisp.
Yeah,
that doesn't bother me at all.
No CVTs. That's my only hard line on transmission.
But yeah, Howard, good call. So 5,000 miles Z06 sold just this month, 67,750. So 70 grand all in for a car with 600 horsepower.
2017 Z06.
Yes,
Yeah.
blow the doors off of that guy in his base Carrera
Oh,
that
for
probably
sure.
doesn't have air conditioning. And
Slight tangent on weird cars on the site that I didn't even know existed. Pinot's Esperante, but the GTLM edition.
This is a street car?
I just hear the air go out of the room.
No.
Pinot's
I'm like,
Esperante.
whenever I hear something I didn't know about, like that cross ramp, it gets me excited. This is
GTLM, it had some body work. I just wasn't aware. I mean, I obviously know about the Esperante. GTLM, never heard of it. Wanted to see the window sticker, not there. Which struck me. Have you ever seen a Pinot's Esperante with a window sticker? They don't exist. Someone is hoarding all the Esperante window stickers, and that guy needs to out himself.
Well, imagine the like backroom alley dealings when you were buying a Panos in 2005. Like, I mean, you had to like go to some special alleyway and like they roll up the door.
Totally.
Here's the one that we built this month. I have fond memories of those because the very first sports car race I went to in '99 had the Panos LMP front engine Le Mans cars. Do you remember those where the driver sat all
Absolutely.
the way back under the wing?
Don Panos was the man. I mean, super.
Oh, totally.
He was very happy to light tens of $millions on fire to realize his dream of building cars and racing. At the
So that
highest
was
level.
American Le Mans Series, and I think he was the person who brought American Le Mans, like brought the Le Mans cars to America. I think, right?
I believe that's right.
Yeah, super cool.
so Howard, now we need to really get to the bottom of this. I say Panos, and now you make me feel like a uncultured bad
I say
person,
Panos.
because
That's okay.
you've been saying Panos like this whole podcast. Did you hear that as well?
I didn't hear that, but I believe it. I'm willing to believe the worst.
Okay,
Howard.
okay.
I think it's I've always said Panos.
We're gonna do the Peugeot debate on a
Yeah,
different
we've had that
episode.
before. We'll have it again.
Randy
I heard somebody say Peugeot today. I heard a guy. I think he was a French speaker, so I think Howard may be right on that one. I was really excited when I heard it.
Well, really, we're all over the map here, but Alex, we never got to hear what's in your dream muscle car garage.
Well, it probably the boring answer is the right answer for me, which is like a fastback Mustang. You know what? But actually, I'm kind of off the Shelby thing, even though they're amazing. I would actually just like a real simple like 289 4-speed fastback, a 66.
Man, Driver Source probably almost 3 years ago had, I believe it was a black 65 or 66 notchback 4-speed K code, and it was super minty. Such a cool spec in that car. I want the K code because I want the
Yeah, K code, and I would go notch if it was a K code. Do you remember the gold K code notch?
Yes,
That's the car, and it combines also my love of a car that's not like I was talking about with like cooking spec, like mild spec cars. That was one that had still had the plaid liner in the trunk and all the kind of period. Oh man, yeah. Fastback is the move for me, but I could go notch if it was the right K code and the right color. That's probably the dream for me, muscle car wise, which is super boring, I know, but that's the car that I like the most.
Zach, are you going to share? Are you going to share your greatest hits?
I can't tell if this is insulting to muscle car enthusiasts or not. You guys can keep me in check, but if I said
Pantera.
Oh, so close, Mangusta.
Ooh, Pantera, I could rope into muscle car conversation. Mangusta may be tough.
Well, Mangusta, there's like 50 of them, so it's not really on the forefront of people's radar. But the early ones have a 289 K code in them, and I think it's one of the most beautiful cars of all time. And I mean, that's kind of like what the pioneer of the mid-engine sort of muscle car. What was there another?
I think okay, so this is interesting. I was literally talking Mangustas with my dad today too.
Oh, perfect time.
Because we were talking about Vincent's and how the Vincent was, I think, the first motorcycle where the motor was stress member, right? Like it's a piece of the chassis. And I said, God, that wasn't in cars for way later. And my dad said, isn't the Mangusta, doesn't it have a stressed member engine? And I think it does.
Wow,
I
deep
think-
cut.
I think it does. Is that right, Howard?
You lost me at stressed member.
Okay. Sorry, it's getting a little sexy, the talking here. I apologize for that. But I think that the engine in a Mangusta is a structural component of the car, which maybe is one of the reasons they're kind of famously not great, because the Pantera, that's not the case, right? But man, is it a gorgeous car. That program, the way the engine covers open.
Incredible. And I just love how flat the dash is and how simple all the gauges are facing you.
I mean, there's no doubt to me it's one of the prettiest.
It's not a muscle car, dude.
So,
It's not.
right.
It's not a muscle car.
And if you were ever in an accident in a Mangusta, you would wish you were in a Dodge Coronet.
Totally. That's exactly right.
I would wish the big block was separating me and the tree that I'm hitting.
Totally. I'm still very, very happy that you brought them up, because I think they're gorgeous. They're one of my favorite
It needed
cars.
to be mentioned. Funny that you'd give Pantera the nod, though.
You know, I think it's on the cusp.
Lincoln and Mercury dealers.
It's an honorable mention.
Yeah.
Another thing we haven't talked about
You
is...
can get a Marty report for it. If you can get a Marty
That's
report
right.
for it.
Yeah. We got to get Kevin Marty on the podcast.
Oh, I'd love to talk to
Ooh,
Kevin
yeah.
Marty.
Tomorrow morning, I'll call Kevin Marty and Reggie Jackson to see if they'll line them up.
Could you ask them, first question, is a Mangusta a muscle car?
They will just laugh, I think.
Yeah.
Probably.
Another part of this discussion, which maybe is for another day, is sick muscle car-ish American wagons from the 60s and 70s. You guys might recall we listed...
Oh, I had Country Squire on this list.
Okay, well,
28.
we listed the best Country Squire. That was some special order with like a Q code 428 and a 4-speed, and I think bucket seats instead of a bench. Anyways, there's some neat. We're getting a little.
No, because I've got a good one. I've got it pulled up. This one, which was the Tempest wagon that somebody had made basically into a tri-power GTO. We had it a couple weeks ago on the site, and it's just a Tempest wagon, but they put the 389 tri-power in it and a 4-speed, and basically made it a GTO wagon.
Some torque for us on there. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Bucket seats. I mean, it's cool.
You know, the kid that piloted out of that to go to 4th grade bullied some other kids once he got out of that wagon, right?
Totally. I mean, my dream, I've thought about this for a long time, would be Olds Vista Cruiser.
Nice.
Wood paneled, open vintage trailer with your Hertz Mustang race car on the back. That's the ultimate rig. You know, kids and some Coors, some vintage Coors beers in the back, and the green Coleman cooler. You know, like live the whole, go into Willow Springs for a weekend race life circa 1970.
Yeah, mad respect. I think I'll keep the beer, but skip the kids and just drive the Shelby to the track. But understand our social lives are a little different at this point. I feel like we can't get off this topic without talking C2 Corvettes. And that's a big topic of discussion.
I was actually going to say that chrome bumper early C3s are really starting to speak to me. But
They're beautiful.
Tell me about
honestly,
C2s.
I would maybe even say the early C3s I would put them up as pretty Corvette, potentially. Let me hash that thought out. But I was going to ask you guys, are you on team early split window Corvette, or do you guys like the later big block cars once they get side pipes? More gills, scoops.
I like disc brakes, so I like the later cars. And Randy, our fearless founder, was the one who pointed out the 5 gills on the side for a 67, which I have really come to like those cars, although I think I'd probably still rock a small block. But a split window with fuel injection is pretty hard to deny, I think.
Split window Fuelie, definitely up there. We had one great split window Fuelie. We had that Resto mod sell for almost $400,000.
Oh, that was wild.
That was nuts, right? It was super nice, but the price was insane.
Yeah. Can't exactly explain that one myself. But I love that silver 63 Fuelie coupe. Do you go open top or do you go coupe if you're going late?
I gotta go coupe. Coupe because I love Zora, and he was trying to make a performance car, and so he wanted a car that could go racing, and so for me it's got to be a coupe.
I like late roadster just because I'm such a Mustang Fastback fanboy that it's kind of cool to have something to balance that out. That's like a late roadster, small block is such a cool date night car, drive around town, open top in a city is just such a special experience.
100%.
And I like 2-seater convertibles in the way that I don't really like 4-seater convertibles.
So for me, if I was going to do that with a Vet, for me it would be a late C1, which has like the C2 tail on it, like a 61, 62, and like those are all convertibles, and they have that great looking removable hardtop, so you can get the look a little bit of a coupe. Many years ago, this is one of the cars that got away that was on BAT years ago. It didn't meet reserve. It was a black 62 with like every option you could order. It had 4-speed Fuelie, and it had some kind of special suspension setup where there were 2 sway bars in the front. I'd never heard of that. And then it had fan-cooled drum brakes.
Yeah,
there
big
were
brake
fans
option.
on the back and like fiberglass air scoops on the back of the brakes. Unbelievable car, black. So sick. I mean, that's an amazing car. Would have loved to have had that car.
I'm a 63 split guy. Thin white walls, standard. Not too exciting there, but also
I mean, there's a reason everyone loves them.
We had that barn find 64, which was really cool. No, it's amazing 63. Good spec, 340 horse.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
On deflated tires, literally in the barn. That was cool.
Interesting that you bring that up, because it seems that every 63, 64 Roadster Corvette owner has also brought up that listing for justification why theirs is more than $50,000.
Yeah. I mean, that was that's buying the dream, you know.
You ever driven a car, Howard, with Rochester fuel injection? One of the Fuelie small blocks?
I have not.
Really interested in them. No. I'd be really curious about it. I've heard various things about them. Tough to tune and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's mechanical fuel injection, but they look so fantastic, and I like the idea that.
I feel Hillborn injection has a reputation as being tough to tune, but
it might be.
I would know from personal experience.
That's like race car stuff. That looks fantastic. I would love Hillborn on a performance car.
Have we covered the highlights of the 60s, early 70s?
We leaving anyone out? We need to talk AMX.
I'm sure we are.
Hemis
I'm sure we're leaving
Barracudas.
someone out.
Oh man, AMX.
We already on a previous podcast we already waxed rhapsodic
yeah.
about the 390 AMX, which I love.
Who is screaming at who of the 9 listeners that have made it this far, probably 3 of which are family members of ours, are screaming at their iPhones right now saying, you forgot XYZ listing.
We talked Novas, we talked Chevelles.
Well, we did sell off note that 70 Nova Yanko Deuce.
Oh,
Yanko is a whole conversation.
That's quite a corner of the muscle car.
I just need to say Galaxy R code to get that one in there.
Yep.
Oh, Galaxy is very good. Oh,
Galaxy Lightweight. That's Randy's spec. Randy, we miss you, buddy. But you're a Galaxy Lightweight guy.
Yeah, those are great. I'm a Fairlane guy, kind of. I like the roofline on the swoopy Fairlane. You guys like those at all? Do anything for you? The silence means no, probably.
I'm lukewarm on Fairlane, although I do love. We
have
have a 62 or 63 Impala SS convertible, a car which they probably made a lot of, but not a whole lot that are super nice remaining. And yeah, Skylark convertibles, early Skylark, early Impala convertibles do it for me for some reason.
Yeah, those are awesome because they're great. I mean, there's so many cars from that era that are interesting, and so many little variations on every model that, get people excited, and, powertrains and colors and options. You could go on forever about it, I think.
All right. We did this topic some justice. Zach, any final thoughts? You gonna come up? I'm doing the test day on Friday. You're gonna come up.
You guys did this topic some justice. My Mangusta comment apparently did not. Final thoughts for you at Sonoma Raceway?
You want to come share the Miata so I can cut down on my entry fee expense?
I don't know, dude. I've never. Oof. Maybe you're going on Friday for a test day. What exactly are you testing? How much rubber is left on those tires? You're too cheap to replace.
I'm just getting the rust off. Gonna try to carry some speed through some corners. If I can finish, P14 this weekend, I'll be happy with that on the flight back to New York.
I need some fresh DOT5 before I can hit Sonoma. My brake pedal's pretty mushy after Laguna the other weekend.
Very good. All right, gents. Alex, what else you got?
I got nothing else. I put all the words out there. Too many words.
You driving down to Slow tonight?
Not tonight. My dad's taking the old Porsche down. I've been trying to start the NSX, which has been sitting in the front of my garage for a couple months. And if I can get that going, I'll probably take it down to Slow this weekend, take my daughter down there.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate all the listeners tuning in. We're getting some good feedback in the podcast email. So send us your comments, questions, and feedback for us. And we'll see you again next week.